Hi everyone, Drew with Drew Talks. I want to share a story from my own childhood. So when I was really little, I had an aunt who didn't have kids yet, and she was in a boutique downtown, and I was with her for some reason. And we go into this boutique, and she leaves me up front in a little chair while she goes into the back to grab something. And sitting across from me is the television set. And the young clerks in the store had on MTV. Now this is in the 80s, so I mean, how bad could the content really be? But it was some sort of documentary of some female singer. And I remember watching it, and the singer was running around on stage, and her outfit consisted of these jeans that didn't have a back end to them. So there's two little cheeks running across the stage. And I'm sitting there as a small child watching this. I'd never seen anything like that before. And my aunt came out of the back, and she took one look at that TV screen, and she marched over to those clerks and ripped them up one side and down the other. She was like, "Do you not realize there's a small child sitting here watching this? How inappropriate to show them this. You need to pay more attention to what's going on around you." Anyway, the women were apologetic, but they seemed a little confused as to what the big deal was. They were super young. So when I think of that moment, my aunt understood that as a child, I don't need to be exposed to every single thing in the adult world right away. She was protecting me. Now, I feel like there's this phrase people use when they talk about protecting children, but they make it sound negative. They're like, "Oh, you don't want to shelter kids too much." When I look at the world right now, I'm like, maybe these kids would benefit from a little bit of sheltering. My aunt protected me in that moment because there was adult content on the screen. We used to understand the fact that children do not process information the same way adults do, nor can they handle adult content. I would wager that if you expose a small child to adult content all the time, it's gonna mess with their development. Real life story. So obviously I was not exposed to all these nasty things that adults are exposed to as a small kid. So now, as an adult, I feel things incredibly deeply and well-rounded. Whereas I look at my husband's childhood, he watched the Scream movies when he was like 8. There wasn't any filter going on in what the kids could or couldn't watch growing up. He had violent video games. And I'm not saying his parents did anything wrong, but I'm saying we've had conversations where he has told me, you know, I actually struggle as an adult feeling appropriate levels of empathy for other people. And I kind of wonder if it was the programming I was desensitized to as a kid. I also feel like there's this push in the culture that children, that sex is not going to affect them. We've seen Hollywood putting out all the time, it's normal for 16-year-olds to be sexually active. When I think most psychiatrists will agree, when a child who is 16 is sexually active, it does kind of mess with their development emotionally. We know kids can't consent to sex. We know kids can't consent to a lot of things because they don't have the capacity to understand what they're taking in. Paramount put out a documentary on kids that perform drag shows, and the adults in the room are throwing dollar bills at the kids while they dance on stage. There was one drag show in a bar in Texas where people took their kids, and there's a big old neon signs up that says it ain't gonna lick itself. Okay, this is not appropriate. Kids shouldn't be in this bar. They shouldn't be putting dollar bills into people's G-strings. They should not be performing in drag shows and having dollar bills thrown at them. I don't understand in what world this is appropriate, and it has nothing to do with being anti LBGQ community. it has to do with that these are kids. This is not a part of a child's world. This is the adult world. Kids should not be exposed to bars, quite frankly. And I feel like there seems to be this break in reality with parents where they feel that if they don't expose these kids, then they're sheltering them. But it's like, you don't understand. Children are not ready for everything. We protect our children. We don't put them in situations where they're hanging out at a bar with a bunch of strangers you don't know, because you're virtue signaling your agenda. I just think back to that story when I was in the store and my aunt knew exactly what to do. What I was seeing was inappropriate, and she was not shy about saying anything about it. And that's what parents need to do. My aunt wasn't saying MTV should not have this stuff on. It wasn't something against this particular performer or singer. She was saying kids shouldn't watch this. So I don't understand the confusion parents are having when somebody is playing a Cardi B video at some sort of salon that your kid's at, and you don't have the gall to walk over there and say, yuck, turn it off, my kid's not watching this. I really think we need more parents to protect their children and to say, I don't care if you seem to think I'm sheltering this child. I'm not sheltering this child, but I am protecting them because that's my job as their mom. Like, share, dislike, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.